Newton's law of motion. What is Newton's law of motion? First of all, you need to know who Newton is. His full name is Sir Isaac Newton, which lived approximately in 16th century, where this era is about Renaissance. So Isaac Newton, or for short Newton, have contribution in physics, calculus, philosophy, and many things. But for now, we will discussing about physics, law of motion. So now, what is law of motion? In nowadays, we know that law of motion, of course, describing every motion. So now, we're going to understand the three basic Newton's law of motion. The first, imagine you have an object in physical system just like this. I will label this with M. So the M is object in our physics system. Next, we know that if we're not disturbing M, the M will remain moving by its own or stay silent, or we know it as rest object or not moving anywhere. So that means M will have acceleration factors is equals to 0 factor. So the consequence of this is that v factor or velocity factor is a constant factor which is constant in direction. Direction is independent of time and its magnitude independence too. So by this condition, we get a concept about inertia, which is in the future, if I say inertial frame, it means that we work in coordinate moving in acceleration is equal to 0 factor, or just simply that the coordinate system is moving but in constant velocity, maybe 0 or maybe some constant value. Next, the second Newton law of motion is about how if we disturb M by something. As consequence, after we disturbing M, it means that we forcing M to move, which is now the acceleration is non-zero factor. That means we can define force factor is proportional to acceleration factor, which later we get definition of force factor is equals to M multiplied by acceleration. Or later, we can define that force is first derivative of p factor with respect to t, which p factor is momentum. So now I will take a note that in our system, in reality, we know that m is a constant which is time independent, and for the momentum, we can define p factor as p equals to m multiplied by v factor. And by this definition, we can see the pattern that second law generalized from the first law, which is the first law is about no acceleration, but in second law, we have acceleration and the new definition itself. The next one is third Newton's law of motion. For now, I will add newcomer as m capital object, which is both m and m capital will collide each other. Now the question is, what happens when time they collide? Before both collide, we know that each other getting near to some point of collision, but after they may be split each other or being one system of object. So how we formulate it? The second law is too restricted by only one system and non-interacting. So we define the integral of f factor with respect to time will equals to p factor, which is if we use definite integral between time interval initial ti and final tf, we will get that p factor now separated by pf minus pi. This is definition of impulse. Now we squeeze the time interval between tf and ti. So yeah, we will get that ti approaching to tf, or the different condition which is no net force or no total force, which is f factor is equals to 0 factor. So now we get that by both or only one condition, we will get this equation as momentum conservation. Momentum final is equals to momentum initial by vector equation. This implies that force in F is equal in I. Next, by this equation, we get that as before, in magnitude, we will get that the magnitude of force at final is equals to minus of magnitude of force in initial vector equation, which we know that this is action we did and F is about reaction in closed system. So this is third Newton's law of motion. And the same pattern, the third law generalizes the second law, which is the third law tell you about interaction that second law don't. Now for summary, I will write as this, which is the first law is about inertia, and by consequence of inertia itself, we will get that the equation of motion is about straight line curve in space. And the second law is about the F is equals to m multiplied by a, and the third law we learn about momentum conservation from second law, the impulse and interaction again in closed system. So that's the Newton's law of motion. I think that's it. See you later.